So we're going to go over why you should not buy a condominium in Washington, D.C. Or the District of Columbia. So first, a couple sentences for people who are not familiar with how condominium works. What happens is it's just like an apartment building, but you purchase and therefore you own a unit in that building. Now, there's the overall common shared expenses because it's a building. So you're going to have building maintenance, and oftentimes utilities are shared, such as water and sometimes electricity, sewage, trash, etc., security, and in some cases they have amenities like a gym, like a pool, like a door dig. The more the amenities, the higher the fee, and it varies from building to building. So what happens is everybody pays that monthly fee, or that monthly condo fee, and that goes to the association. The condo association is basically a business entity that operates and manages the condominium. Now, with that money, what ends up happening is some of it goes to the operating expenses, and other funding goes to what's called the reserves. And that's a kind of a savings for a rainy day. So you're going to have things in a building that happen that are going to be big expenses. So the two that come to mind will be foundational repairs and roof repairs. So like, say for example, your roof is old. Well, a roof on a condo building, depending on the size of the building, I mean, I would say you're starting at $100,000 on up, right? So with that said, you're going to pull up some listings, and you're going to see some condos that are available for ridiculously low prices. And you're going to pull up the listing, and you'll notice that there's a notation that there are no utilities going to the building. Well, the reason that there's no utilities going to the building is because the association didn't have the money to pay the bills, the electric bill, the water bill. That happened because they didn't have the money because not enough units were paying. So it's a very vicious cycle. What happens is, and you got to remember, it's not like hundreds of units necessarily in a building. A lot of these buildings are 12, 20, 30, 40 unit buildings. So if a handful of owners aren't paying, that has a profound effect on the overall financial health of that association. So what's going to happen is the condo fee increases, right, for the people that are paying to cover the slack of the people that aren't paying. Well, as that fee increases, people start saying, well, what am I getting for my fee? Well, you're not getting much. What you're getting is a working building, and you're helping the people that aren't paying. Well, people don't like that, understandably. So as the fee gets higher, more and more owners are like, well, forget this, I'm not going to pay. And then it just becomes so high to the point that in order to operate that building, there are very few owners that have to pay a very high cost. They can't afford it, they're just not going to do it, and the building folds, right? So obviously it's not habitable without utilities. And if you think about using it as a storage space, I'd advise against that, because even in a commercial storage space, there is going to be some level of climate control and vermin control, whereas in an abandoned building, you'll have neither. And so no matter how durable the stuff is that you're storing there, it's going to rot / get eaten. So let's go back to purchasing, let's say, a unit in a building at market value, say. Well, you look at the condo fee, and let's say it's reasonable, or it's tolerable for you. Well, what happens if people start to not pay? Well, in Virginia and Maryland, legally that condo association has more swift measures to get that unit to pay, or to get that unit owner out who's not paying. In the district, the shortest path, and I won't go through all the legalities, you can look that up for yourself. It's basically, it goes to, a lien gets placed on the property, and then goes to foreclosure, and then goes to auction, etc. The fastest path to auction is going to be about 4 months, right? I would count on about a year. Okay, when all the, because that other unit owner is going to have legal representation. They're going to go back and forth. You're looking at about a year. All right. So let's say a year goes by. Their unit is on the auction block. Somebody goes in there. The winning bidder gets the unit, and they now own the unit. Not necessarily. And there's two problems. One, there's no guarantee that the winning bidder is going to be paying their fees, right? No guarantee at all. Secondly, that unit owner that just lost their property has 30 days to repay, and then they now have their property again. And you can look forward to going through this process and absorbing legal fees again, right? So let's say you have one unit owner that's doing that. It's not such a big deal, right? So out of 20, 30 units, you got one bad apple, you can absorb that hit. Well, let's say you got 10 bad apples, not uncommon. Now you've got 10 or 20 unit owners trying to cover the cost of building maintenance of all these units, and then there's no reserve being built. So what you have to do is you have to, if you really want to buy a condominium in Washington, D.C., what you really have to do is you have to look at the books, right? So you pick a location you like, you see the square footage, the layout, everything looks good, you're okay with the parking and the amenities or lack thereof, and you look at the condo fee, and it's tolerable, okay? You need to look at the finances, and that should be made available to you before purchasing. And that's going to thwart a lot of buyers. And so if a price is kind of low, it's because the finances are not in good order. So let's say the reserve balance is less than $20,000. Remember, that's your emergency fund for like building repairs, new roof, etc. Well, a healthy balance, I'd say, would start at 6 figures on up. A healthy reserve balance. If that condominium association cannot produce a reserve balance of 6 figures on up, I would have reservations of buying into that building. Secondly, you want to know what is the percentage of paying units versus non-paying units, and they should be able to share that information with you, because if you have 25 to 50% of the units, or I'd say 25% or more of the units that are 90 days in arrears of paying, that's not good, because now your board is bogged down with the whole legal process of putting on liens and foreclosures, and it's a mess, as we've discussed. So for that reason, the reason being that it's just a long, arduous process to get a non-paying unit owner to pay in the District of Columbia, it's probably more advisable, although more expensive, to look outside of the District of Columbia, because if somebody is not paying their condo fees, there are more swift measures that can be taken to get them to pay. So I hope this helped you, and again, I would just avoid all the headaches and probably not want to buy in DC.